Lawfare. It's a new word, lawfare, for an old phenomenon. Left-wing activists in Canada are choosing to wage their political battles in Canada's law courts instead of through traditional public opinion and political campaigns. You see, when you cannot convince people of your ideas on their own merits, democracy, you resort to dirty tricks and legal technicalities. These activists know they can't use facts and logic, so they turn to legal loopholes and obscure statutes instead. They take advantage of decades of judges appointed by the Liberal Party of Canada who are prone to judicial activism. They undercut and undermine democracy and public trust in our system to get their own way. So if you remember your Canadian civics, our government is made up of three branches. Executive branch, they represent the Crown, and it's comprised of the Prime Minister and his cabinet. Then you've got the legislative branch, made up of members of Parliament and senators. They debate, they pass legislation. And finally, the judicial branch, appointed judges, yes, appointed, who provide checks and balances and help to secure the rights and freedoms of Canadians. The legislative branch writes and passes laws, the executive carries them out, and the judiciary evaluates and interprets the laws. Civics in 30 seconds or less. In theory, this balance of powers provides oversight and accountability. In practice, unelected judges often apply the law differently in different cases, thereby allowing the activists to cheat the system. Now, this takes us to Toronto, where our friends just witnessed all of this when a single unelected judge removed the democratically elected mayor who received over 380,000 votes, just about 50%, in the municipal election, all over a technical breach in municipal law. This can't continue, folks. It's time for some Canadian common sense. Okay, we're all supposed to be equal under the law. The law should not and cannot be applied differently to different people. That is why you see statutes like this one outside the Vancouver Law Courts. And the blindfolded lady, that's the statute, the blindfolded lady justice. Justice is supposed to be blind to everything except the law and the facts. But it seems in Canada, Lady Justice is cheating and keeping one eye open. The left eye. It seems the judges are deciding what outcome they want and then applying our law to get the outcome. Our judges see a serious criminal and their bleeding hearts say, "Don't throw this gangster in jail." All of a sudden, the judge invents some supposed violation of the Charter of Rights. He's helped to do so by the Defense Counsel. Now, the same judges see a conservative getting elected, and all of a sudden, they start enforcing laws to ridiculous extremes. Our judges are no longer impartial. They have become politicians, ruling us without having to face elections, without having to be accountable to voters. This is undermining public trust in our justice systems. And no case is a better example of this left-wing bias than the case that saw Mayor Ford thrown out of office for a violation that is less serious, folks, than jaywalking. The activists and the lawyers behind this case just hate Rob Ford. They've got a hate on for him. And so they have launched complaint after complaint after complaint, trying to find a way to undo the result of the last election 2 years ago. They threw the book at the mayor, having him audited and his campaign finances scrutinized. But the mayor was found to be squeaky clean. So then they finally found a judge that was willing to go along with their anti-democratic agenda and had him turfed. But folks, undermining democracy is not the worst part of our justice system. Overturning democratic elections may make Canadians angry, but at least it does not put our lives at risk. Putting our lives at risk is exactly what activist judges do when they allow violent criminals to walk out into the street. Let's look at the case of Graham James, a monster who was convicted of sexually abusing young hockey players while he was a coach. In 1997, the sicko was sentenced to 3.5 years for molesting Sheldon Kennedy and 2 other players. He only served 18 months in jail before being released. 3.5 years for sexually abusing 3 young boys. He doesn't even serve that. Then in December of 2011, last year, surprise, surprise, he's convicted of more sexual abuse charges, this time against Theo Fleury and his cousin, Todd Holt. At this time, he's given 2-year sentences for each case of abuse. Sounds a little better. Punishment seems to have doubled. No. The child rapist was told he could serve the 2 jail terms concurrently. So it means he serves 2 years in jail for rape of one child and at the same time serves 2 years in jail for the rape of another. But it's as if he had only raped one. Folks, it doesn't take a math genius to see that this is the same weak sentencing as the first time around. Graham James gets a 2-for-1 discount. Thank you, judges. Then you have a case like Iranian refugee Alan Tehran Kari, 1993. This foreign criminal was sentenced to 12 years in prison for bank robbery, kidnapping, and using illegal firearms. The government decided he posed a risk to the public, tried to deport him back to Iran. But Tehran Kari managed to manipulate Canadian courts with appeal after appeal after appeal and kept delaying his deportation until 2005. In 2005, after various judges had delayed his deportation, Tehran Kari raped and then killed his sister-in-law by dousing her with gasoline and setting her on fire. Now, this disgusting animal is rotting in a Canadian prison, wasting your tax dollars, and he's still our problem. A sad state of affairs in a great country like Canada. Some of our judges have proven that they don't think it's their job to protect us from violent criminals. They really don't. Instead, they, with the help of their left-wing defense lawyer friends, have decided it's their job to cause chaos in our political affairs and to overturn elections. This judicial activism and lawfare threaten our public safety and harm Canadian democracy. Courts no longer balance power in our system. They tip it, and the scales of justice are tilted because of politically motivated activist judges. And that, I'm afraid, is Canadian common sense.